Hello, my name is J.R. Charles. I'm the Customer Success Manager for SizeUp, and today we're doing a training on how to use SizeUp here with the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. This covers Tarrant County, and so you'll be able to find data in Tarrant County where businesses that are of interest to you. So first things first, I'll show you how to get to the tool from their website. You can see here that I'm already on their tool, but if I were coming to the main page, then I can come to the home page, Business Advocacy, and then Business Intelligent Tools. And when I click that, I have now loaded SizeUp. We'll be presented with 3 different products. We'll go through each one of them. Small Business Insights is how your business can understand how to operate in their ecosystem. Small Business Advisor is like an encyclopedia paired with our SizeUp data. And then Shop Local is a way to identify locally owned businesses that are in your community. So we'll jump into the first product, Small Business Insights, and you're presented with this menu. From here, we can start off with a couple of things that a business owner ought to know. That is their industry segment. So I'm going to use coffee shops as an example, and then their location. I'll use Fort Worth as my base of operation. So I have those 2. I click Next, come inside, and I'll have 4 options. I can measure my business performance, find my customers, suppliers, and competitors, optimize my marketing and advertising strategy, and then analyze demographics. Once we get inside, I'll show you that these 4 products are in the tool, so you can get to them easily. So I click inside, there's my business, competition, advertising, and demographics here at the top here. Let's get started. We've already looked at our industry, we've looked at our locations, now we can start getting into some of the indicators here. So for revenue, I'll start with $1 million that I'm plugging in here. SizeUp has just plotted the revenue of all coffee shops in the United States. You can see here that as we come down, we've got a heat map that shows the distribution of income for coffee shops by zip code. I've got a chart over here that shows my $1 million compared with the averages ranking from local Fort Worth through the counties that touch Tarrant County and up to the United States. I even have a table here, so if I want to copy and paste this into an Excel document, or if I want to plug it into a Word document, I can do that there. You'll also be given some information for statistical value that you can use for getting some kind of comparison there. Coming out a little bit more, year started. Let's say that I started my coffee shop in 2020. So I hit that. SizeUp has just plotted the opening of every single coffee shop in the United States. You can see there's a positive trend line with a couple of major bumps here, but we see that 2021, for example, and 2015 were major opening dates. But if I want to focus on my local area, I can turn off United States, turn off Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Metroplex, and now I've got the counties that are adjacent to me, and of course I can turn off the county that doesn't apply to me. So if I turn off Wise and Parker and Johnson and Denton, then I'm left with just Tarrant County and Fort Worth. And you can see here, I can see quickly that the coffee shops in these areas are thriving. This is important because if you're in an industry that has no growth, then this may be an indicator that there is not an opportunity here. But we're seeing here there is demand, so the supply here of businesses is coming up. We come down a little bit more. I can now plug in salary. So if I say $30,000, maybe a good average for an employee. Right now, we have the average salaries in the area. But we can see that our salary is quite a bit more than the averages in the surrounding area. So about a third more, you can see here. And again, I got the heat map that shows the distribution of that income by salary here. This is important because unless a business is a manufacturer, employee salaries are likely the business expense. So they want to get this right. This is a good way to see and have insight into this area. Coming down a little bit more, this is some of our premium data that Tarrant County has invested in. So I can see here the hourly wage. So let's say I want to search for particular occupations. So maybe I want to do a host. There I have host. And I want to do a short order cook. So type in short order there. And if I need a manager to run it, of course, SizeUp is going to predict what kind of manager that I need. And I just come down alphabetically and find food services manager. Perfect. I now have 3 occupations. If you want to put one in, you have to take one out. But for this illustrative purposes, I can see that now I have the occupational wage by category. So host, short order cook, and food service manager. I don't have to guess what kind of wage I need to pay for my employees. I can quickly see right here what I should advertise it by the metro, state, and national average. And this gives me something if I want to compare across different geographies. If I come down a little bit more to employees, maybe I have a 20-person coffee shop, and I can see that my coffee shop is a little bit bigger than average. We can all agree that 20 people is a small business, but it's not a small coffee shop. What's big and small gets turned on its head when you look through the lens of data here. And again, my heat map shows me where some of the larger coffee shops here, southwest Tarrant County, out here pushing towards the border here in Arlington, out in the suburbs, there's some more head count, relatively speaking. So it's not unheard of to be a 20-person coffee shop, but this at least shows you on average that you're a little bit above average in that sense. Here are some ways that data is presented that we can interpret. So for example, here are employees per capita. This will show us where people are working age, so you can understand the availability of the workforce. So quickly we can see here the concentrated areas where labor is, obviously downtown Fort Worth, and out here more towards Dallas, pushing east, are going to have more people up that way as opposed to heading out west. Coming down a little bit more, cost effectiveness. This is where our revenue number, our head count, and our salary, we're using those numbers and producing a little bit of arithmetic to give a ratio. And in this case, my business with $1 million in revenue and a 20-person head count and $30,000 in salaries per person is on the more inefficient side. And so we may want to go and visit other places here out in the east, or maybe over here in Comanche, so I can see maybe where another coffee shop is a little more efficient that way. But I can kind of tell from the data here that it's definitely my head count and my salary that's making me not as efficient as my competitors. Coming down a little bit more, revenue per capita. This is where we can slice and dice the data a few different ways. I can see here that SizeUp code, for example, is producing a lot of revenue per capita. And if I come down a little bit more on this revenue by zip code, it's kind of equal compared to its peers around there. Well, why is that? It's not a leakage analysis. I can't call it that. I can't say more people are coming into downtown to spend money, but it is an indication that with a probably more concentrated population, higher head count, but still a lot of money coming downtown, it probably is a hot place to spend your money compared to out here. But if I look at total revenue, this area over here has a lot of total revenue. So possible that there is probably some people in Fort Worth coming out into this area to spend money. Again, not leakage, but it gives you an interesting way of looking to see where people may be going to spend their money. Local retention, let's say your business has to replace 10% of our staff every year, so 20 head count, 2 people, right? 10%. And you may be feeling frustrated. Well, don't feel frustrated, because what you thought was a weakness is actually a strength. The turnover in Denton County or Tarrant County, you should be losing more like 3 people every year, not 2 people. And this is what SizeUp is doing. It's helping make the invisible a little more obvious. That businesses can use this data that they can't easily access or afford, so they can focus on real challenges. In this case, in my scenario, it's definitely the head count and the wage. If I come down a little bit more, net job changes will show you the robustness of the industry. In this case, restaurants and other eating places. Basically, just tells you what the head counts are for the most recent quarter. So you can get an indication of whether you're looking at manufacturing, healthcare, retail, restaurants, hospitality, whatever. SizeUp can show you that data that you not necessarily be able to have just at your fingertips. Come a little bit more, won't spend too much time here, but healthcare costs. We can look at the average spend for healthcare. So I can see here that the average in Texas is about $8,000, where I thought it might be $7,000. So that gives me an idea of what my average would be. And then workers' comp, I don't know. That's an invisible thing to me. I guess $1. It's actually 88 cents per 100. So I can use these 2 values to go out and shop for insurance, make sure I'm getting a good deal on what I'm buying. Open hours, let's say that my coffee shop idea, not only we open limited hours, I want to do like a 9 to 5 coffee shop, maybe a couple extra hours here and there. So maybe I say 50 is a good average, but I can see here that my coffee shop, not going to be very competitive. We're planning to be closed a lot more than our competitors, than the market is actually offering. And I come down here a little bit. Again, I can turn off a couple of these data points. So if I want to turn off Denton and Johnson and Parker, now I have just Tarrant County, Wise County. I can even turn off the Metroplex, Texas. This gives me an idea of what kind of hours that I'm able to operate, right? So again, I can turn these back on and off and have that there. So come down a little bit more. This shows me that when they're open. So if I make this a little bit bigger for you, excuse me, then I can see here that everything's pretty much open from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. So my idea of working 50 hours, being open from 9 to 5, it's probably not going to work. I need to meet my demand and competition where they exist. For this portion, this is your digital footprint, basically. So if I say jrscafe.com, I can see where other people have websites. So pretty much everybody's got a website. If I do Facebook, I do JR's Cafe again. I can see that everybody's got a Facebook, except for Wise County has a pretty low average down that way. And then maybe I don't want Instagram. We have a majority of people are using Instagram in that space. LinkedIn, a little on the lesser side, but about half are using LinkedIn. X or Twitter, less than a third is using it. And then YouTube, about half there too. So this will tell me where I need to advertise. I can say I need to definitely have a website, definitely a Facebook and Instagram and a YouTube evidently. And maybe if I want to try to get into spaces where my competitors are not, I can looking at LinkedIn or some other social media. I can click this button now on Summary View, and I've got the indicator that I'm looking for. I've got my data input, and I've got this little health bar, so to speak. Red is less, green is more. Red does not mean bad, and green does not always mean good. You take those contexts for what they are. So like for example, this 20% head count, I know it's larger, but it's green, so that's not necessarily a good thing, but it just means that it's more than average on that one. So now I've got my table, now I've got my chart. I can click the PDF button, and the hamster will spin in the wheel for a few seconds while it generates this report. And now I've got a nice report here that I can take to my investors, my loan officer, my marketing agent, whoever I need to talk to, and I can show them, hey, here's what I found out through my analysis of my own business. So that is the My Business module. Moving into competition now, I want to change jobs to show you a different aspect of using SizeUp. So let's say that I'm going to be a roofer. I'll do roofing contractor. So I'm a roofing contractor now in Fort Worth, and I now have my competitors. I can click on the buttons here on the side, and it'll show me my competitors. It'll show me their phone numbers, if they have a website or maybe some social media, and I can look at that. And if I even want to add industries, let's say that complementary competition here is going to be gutters. So I type in gutter, here's gutter and downspout contractors, so now I've got that as well. You can see here that I've got 10 entries, 50 pages worth of entries, so I've got 500. Now, that 500 is not going to be just in Fort Worth, obviously. It'll be able to, as you will see here, as I click through, it'll start to zoom out. So I'll start going around Fort Worth, and it'll have the majority of the competition there in Fort Worth because there's a lot of roofing contractors. But you can see here that I've clicked this page, now it starts to zoom out a little bit more. Now I'm starting to get into greater Fort Worth. I can keep clicking on through. By the time I get about halfway through, it'll start to actually pull out more into more of the Dallas area. And if we kept on pulling out, in fact, if I zoomed out like this, then I'm going to start seeing roofing contractors and gutter installers across the United States. So I'm going to keep it here in Fort Worth for right now, just so that we don't have too much bleed. But if I come back up and now start thinking about my customers who I'm going to go after, I can start to plot them too. So now we have our selector here. So maybe I want to go after single family contractors, right? Single family construction. I want to be a sub for them. So I click single family contractors and boom, I've got my single family contractors. Same thing. I've got 10 per page, 50 pages, 500. And again, it's going to zoom out as you start to go down that page list. Suppliers, I can do that as well. So if I say roofing materials, and I have some choices here. I'm going to do wholesale. Now I've got my roofing materials here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And again, I can zoom out and start seeing those pages there. Now this is important because we're trying to help economic developers, chambers of commerce, help their businesses. We're also trying to help communities. What we're doing is psychologically nudging people into using local services so those dollars stay in the local economy. That's the whole point. We're trying to help our local businesses try to stay competitive in their market. So now I've got my competitors, I've got my customers, I've got my suppliers. I can even turn on this layer over here in consumer spending. So if I want to do a direct-to-consumer marketing campaign, or I want to start targeting folks for social media ads or whatever, I can go to consumer spend, and I've now got all these categories here, as you'll see as I scroll down, for different areas. So grocery, healthcare, health insurance. I'm going to be in shelter since I'm a roofing contractor. I do shelter. It's going to start showing me what people spend on shelter. And then I can come here and do repair and maintenance. And I've got these different options. I'm starting to drill down into very niche categories of retail spend. So if I do maintenance, materials and maintenance for construction, it's now going to show me where those spends are. So if I want to start targeting folks for do my roofing contracting business, well, I've got this area basically out in the suburbs of Fort Worth would be a good place I may want to target, especially up here in this area. A lot of spends up in this area for those type of materials. So that is the competition tool. It maps out your entire ecosystem. Moving on to advertising. This is what I like to think about as both your marketing, right? So how do you advertise? But also trying to identify your market so you know where people and consumer habits are occurring. So I'm going to change jobs again. I'm going to be a dentist, right? This is a good business to consumer explanation. You'll see here in the drop-down menu, I can slice and dice the data a few different ways. Total revenue, revenue per capita, underserved markets, average revenue, total employees, household income. All of these correspond to the data that is incumbent and inside every single zip code that we're going to look at, right? So I've got, again, population, I've got total revenue, per capita revenue, average revenue, employees, and household income. So they correspond. So depending on what you're looking for, you're still going to search by zip code, but these will allow you to seek what you're looking for specifically. So if you want to understand, what the average revenue for a single firm is, then you can target that. If you want to look at the aggregate, the total revenue in a certain industry sector, then you can go that way. All right, so now having that knowledge, I'm going to now do my dentist. I'm going to do it based on a couple of different scenarios. So I've got my total revenue, Fort Worth 76107. These guys down here in Arlington Heights area are spending a lot of money on dental services. So if I want to advertise to that big slice of the pie down there, then I would advertise down that way. I can also look at it from a different perspective. I may want to look at it from underserved markets. This is going to flip the script and show me where people are paying per capita. So in this case, $13 to $14 for 76119 down here in this area, down around the Lake Arlington. Excuse me. And so if I say, hey, well, maybe there's a reason why they're underserved. It's because of demographics. We'll see that in the next module in a split second. Is it because there's no dentist in the area? Maybe he's willing to do some research on that one. But I can get a little bit more granular in how I want to pursue this data. So let's say that, let me turn that off. Let's say that I want to start to filter this. I want to look at particular areas of the market. So maybe I think, maybe 20 miles is a reasonable estimation for people who are willing to drive. That takes us kind of out to the fringe of Tarrant County. And I say, you know what? I want to target a higher net worth household that has children. So I can sell them pediatric dentistry and general dentistry. So I can turn up household income. Say maybe the household income needs to be at least $100,000. And the median age, because we're trying to target households with children, needs to be down around maybe the 35 mark on that one. And now I've got up here 6 results. So this shows me the underserved markets, right? Because that's what we're looking at. Underserved markets up here. And so I can see that Arlington down here, back where we were originally looking, indeed, spending about $130 to $140 per person. But that's with the parameters of a high household income and being about 35 years in age on average, meaning they're likely to have children in the household. So that's a good business to consumer example of how you may want to use SizeUp. You can apply this to any other industry, whether it's retail, professional services, or whatever. Let's look at a business-to-business example. Let's say that I make jewelry in my basement. Me and a couple of my friends, we make jewelry, and we're having pretty good success in the Metroplex. We're wanting to kind of get bigger and scale out. But we're not limited by our geography. I can actually come in here and I can say, you know what? I sell to the whole nation. I want to target businesses across the entire United States. So who are my customers? That's a big question. Well, be a jewelry maker. Maybe I want to sell directly to jewelry stores. So I type in jewelry stores. And then here, SizeUp, produce the results. So I do jewelry stores. Of course, I'm basing in Fort Worth, but that's okay. I don't need to worry about that at the moment right now. I'm looking across the United States. And now I can filter myself. I can say, you know what? I'm targeting jewelry stores that maybe have lower employee counts, right? Because I want to sell directly to them. I can't sell to Jared or K Jewelers or something like that. I need to go for truly owned mom and pop jewelry stores. So I come down here to industry performance and I say, all right, well, I need to have jewelry stores that have at the most probably maybe 50 employees, maybe even 10 employees if I want to get that small. And their average revenue, I'm going to keep it kind of on the small side, maybe $1 million, right? And I still got plenty of zip codes to choose from. I got 2,123 zip codes here. But I'm starting to narrow in on my target. So now maybe of these communities that have 50 employees and $1 million in revenue, maybe I want to try to identify places that maybe have higher household incomes, maybe at least $100,000. And then maybe their median age, if I want to kind of be in that costume jewelry, for example, maybe I want to have more of an older clientele. So I say maybe the median age is at least 40 there. Well, there you go. I've got 214 results, but of course these are my top 10. I want to be even more refined than that. Maybe bachelor's degrees, 50, 42, I'm getting a little bit better. And maybe people have a good household expenditure. They're spending at least 40% of their income. I'm doing 42, maybe 50. And I can try to slide it differently from there. You get the idea is that basically we're trying to zone in on a particular market so that we can try to sell to them. So I'll just, for the sake of time, show you that here on the total employee count. If I want to go for truly small mom and pop jewelry stores with total employees by 8 to 8.5 or 10 to 12 or whatever, I can start using this now to go through and ID some zip codes. So again, this is a way we can start targeting, and maybe we should do some direct outreach based on a Google Map search or a targeted Facebook campaign, or maybe even go back to our competition tool and try to identify jewelry stores in those markets. Because again, like I mentioned, you can start local, but as you zoom out, you'll start to get some of those businesses that you're targeting there. All right, moving on to the demographics tool. This is the way to put a business at the center of the world. So right now, I can do it by an address, a boundary, or a place. So let's start with an address. Be easy to do that. So I'm in Fort Worth. I'm sure there's a main street in Fort Worth. There you go, Main Street, Fort Worth. Click that. We're in the center of Fort Worth. I can do based on a ring, 10-mile ring, or a drive time in minutes. So we're going to look at demographics. I'll create that. There's my circle. And now I've got all the demographics here for my circle. And I see about sex, population, age distribution, race, household incomes, etc. So if I want to look at high net worth people, maybe between $125,000 and $150,000 in household income, then I can do that. And again, I can zoom way down. I get at the block group level. So now I know neighborhood by neighborhood, census block by census block, where those people are, right? And if I want to look more at the drive time, maybe I'd say, you know what, maybe if I'm a 15-minute drive kind of person, got a retail store, I can do that. Now I've got a 15-minute drive time. And again, I can go back and turn on my demographics, say 30, 39-year-olds. There they are by zip code. And again, I can zoom in maybe up here by 820, see exactly where they are. So here's a better concentration of that age population right here in this neighborhood. So now I can know where to target some of my advertising if I wanted to. I can also do something within a boundary. So let's shift that over to within a boundary, and we'll turn off the data point. So let's say that maybe I know that I want to set up a targeted advertising campaign, or maybe I want to even put a storefront in a particular area. I can say, okay, well, maybe I want to be down at 35, right? I'm going to come down here. I want to be kind of here, but not into downtown Fort Worth. I can draw a little icon and do consumer expenditure, so I understand where people are spending money inside this corridor, and hit create. Now I've got all kinds of consumer expenditures I can look at. Alcohol, beverages, apparel, contributions, education, entertainment, food away from home. I can look at this data in a few different ways. I have a default view here. I can change it by alphabetical, maximum value to show me the highest term. Of course, total is going to be the highest. And then fast food deliveries is the true highest, that subcategory. I can do minimum value, and I'm back on default. I can even look at this in terms of a chart. And again, do the same thing. Alphabetical, value, minimum value, etc. But to say, I've got all that right here. So if I'm targeting that particular area, now I know in that area. I can even look inside of a place. So I can come to place over here. And this is where I can kind of go based on political geographies. So if I want to learn about labor force, for example, and I don't want to be just in Fort Worth, maybe I want to be in the county. Look at Tarrant County here. I can create that, and now I've got the entire county here. And I've got the demographics in terms of labor right here at my fingertips. So I know about employees, or excuse me, employers, establishment size, businesses by type. I even have some employees by occupation. So if I'm looking to recruit a certain type of worker, say in the education space, I can turn that on, and there I have it. Now it's at the zip code level. I can come down a little bit more, and again, I can get back down to that block level. So it looks like I've got pretty well stratified education teacher population. So I'm pretty good on trying to identify those folks. So that's a quick look at the demographics tool. Again, this is putting the business at the center of the universe. The advertising is understanding your market and how to market to them based on your parameters here. Competition is your ecosystem of competitors, customers, and suppliers. And then my business is truly your business compared to the averages of your peers. It's a very good way to understand who you are and maybe how you size up and stack up to them. All right, so that was the first product that we have, Small Business Insights. And again, I can visit the next product right in the app, right in the tool. So if I click over to the next one, Small Business Advisor, excuse me, Small Business Advisor will load up, and you'll see here that I've got some input fields and some clickables. So for example, I can either click planning my business, starting my business, managing, growing. These are going to give me topics related to what phase of business I'm in. I can also come in and type in what I'm looking for. So I just type in the law. It's going to give me everything related to legal. We have predictive and smart text. I'll search for that. So I'm going to search for topics or a specific item. And I also can click down here where I'm not sure where I want to go. I've got some macro topics that I can go in here and click, be inside, and I can start doing a search from there. But for demonstration purpose, I'm going to do planning my business. And then I may have an Italian restaurant. And I am in Fort Worth. Okay. We're going to get started. I now have topics that are related to planning your business. These are the things that you would normally think about whenever you're looking at starting up your business. So I've got market research, buying a business, startup costs, outsourcing, business structure, all kinds of topics related here. So let's say I'm looking at market research. I want to understand who I am and who I'm trying to sell to. We're going to have some videos. This one here is from PBS, and of course I can play it and get ready to go. And if we don't find a source of it, like PBS or some other trusted source, then we'll create our own. I'll show you that in a split second. So we've got some tidbits here of how to understand certain topics in market research. But I've got over here a little symbol. It's a SizeUp symbol. If I click that, I now have all my competitors right here at my fingertips. Because again, I'm looking at market research. They're part of my market. And if I come down a little bit more, look, I've got revenue, I've got your started. These are the tools we saw in the Small Business Insights product. So I'm getting context for my information. So if I say, yeah, hey, I think $3 million is good for an Italian restaurant, I can quickly see I'm going to be more in the neighborhood of about $2 to $2.4 million. Not to say there aren't high flyers down here in Mansfield. They're all spending a lot of money on Italian restaurants. So maybe I want to go to those areas and understand why. Is it the demographics? Is it because there's a few restaurants punching above their weight? It's a good way to go back and look about that one. Right? So that is one illustration there of how you can do some market research. I can also type in a topic. So if I say I want to look at employees, right? So if I'm looking for topics related to employment, I've got all these topics that I can choose from here. So say maybe I want to learn about how to create a good company culture. I can come inside, and here's a video that SizeUp has created. It's about 2 minutes long. This gives them just enough information to cover the subject, but still keep it interesting and succinct. And again, I've got topics that I can click through here and see about how to create good culture. I've even got places below here, human resources and workplace. If I want to explore more topics adjacent, then I can go that way. I've also got up here at the top some other topics that I may want to cover and explore. It's up here in the exploration bar on that one. And then down here, I can click this for these macro topics, and then I've got some pretty large pools of finances, legals, costs, all that kind of stuff. So if I want to learn about technology, and I've got some options here, maybe website traffic, it'll teach me, again, a SizeUp video about website traffic. But I've also got some information here. Look, here's that digital footprint that I saw in the previous product there. So I can learn exactly who is in the digital space. And I can start to do counter programming there, where I know to invest in my digital resources. So that is Small Business Advisor. It's an encyclopedia with insights that help give you data with context. All right, excuse me. Shop Local. Shop Local is a good product for chambers of commerce, local governments, merchant associations, things like that, in order to encourage people to shop with truly owned and operated businesses that are headquartered there in Fort Worth. So we got Shop Local Fort Worth here, and I can just type in restaurants, right, as a good comparison tool. And so it'll start populating these businesses around Fort Worth. Take a while to populate that. I'm sure Fort Worth has a lot of really good restaurants. But now we see here, we just have one street, Main Street, for right now. But of course, I've got my 50 pages worth of data here. And so I can see here all these different topics. And I can even search. If I want to look for mine by woman owned here, then I can have that. We'll even have some, like for example, this might be minority owned. That's located right there in the information block. So this is a really good way if you're a local entrepreneur and you want to get listed in your category. Super easy. All you have to do is here click this button to add a missing business to SizeUp. You'll be able to enter that information, and then we'll be able to add it to our database. If you have a location, for example, a restaurant Nuevo Leon, that wants to change it, maybe their phone number has changed, or they have a new website, or they want to add different social media, they can suggest an edit right here. Just click it, a pop-up will come up, and they're able to edit their information right there on the screen. So pretty powerful little tool to identify those locally owned operations. So again, right here, we've got Shop Local, identify those local entrepreneurs. Small Business Advisor is your encyclopedia that is not just text-based with education topics, but also has the data to come in and give insights where there is none in a standard educational guide. And then Small Business Insights, where we can see who we are. We can size up ourselves, we can find customers and suppliers, we can optimize our marketing, and we can analyze our data. So that is an overview of how to use SizeUp, and we wish you good speed in using this and how to do that. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about how to use SizeUp, you can come down here to the live training section, and when you click that, it'll take you to a Zoom where you can sign up for live training. Every single Wednesday, we host a training session where I or another colleague will get on and teach your small businesses how to use SizeUp. It's direct from us on that one. So we encourage you to use that there as well.